All right, today we are diving deep into what might be the single most dreaded part of the IELTS exam, the speaking test. But don't you worry, we are going to crack open the insider's playbook and completely demystify this thing for you. So let's just get right into it. The test itself, it's only about 11 to 14 minutes long. That's it. So why does it feel so incredibly nerve-wracking? Why is this the part that freaks everybody out? And more importantly, does it really have to be that scary?
Okay, first things first, let's completely reframe what this test actually is. It is not some formal interrogation. It is not a performance where you have to be perfect. At its heart, the test is just a chat, an informal discussion with a certified examiner who simply wants to see how well you can communicate in English. That's it. Thinking of it as just a conversation is your first and biggest step to calming those nerves.
So let's break down the structure of the test. I want you to think of it like a game board with 3 clear sections. Once you know the path, the whole journey becomes way less intimidating.
The test is split into 3 parts. Simple. It kicks off with part 1, the interview. This is just a gentle warm-up, really. They'll ask you familiar questions about you, your life, your home, stuff like that. Then you move into part 2, the long turn. This is your moment to speak by yourself for about 1 to 2 minutes on a topic they give you. And then it all wraps up with part 3, the discussion, which is a deeper conversation that actually flows right from the topic you just talked about in part 2.
And how does that 11 to 14 minutes break down? Well, part 1 and part 3, the 2 chatty parts, they each take about 4 to 5 minutes. That bit in the middle, your solo talk, that runs for about 3 to 4 minutes, which also includes the 1 minute you get to prepare. You know, understanding this rhythm is a huge advantage. It lets you manage your energy and stay sharp the whole time. All right, so now that we know the layout of the game board, let's talk about the winning moves. These are 5 super effective strategies that can make a huge difference in your performance, and just as importantly, in your confidence on test day. So here are 5 things you can do. 1. Try to speak English every day, even if it's just a little bit. It builds that fluency muscle. 2. Always give full, extended answers, never just yes or no. 3. If you make a mistake, just correct yourself. It's okay. In fact, it shows you have a good command of the language. 4. Seriously, if you don't understand the question, just ask them to repeat it or explain it. It's totally fine. And 5. Treat it like you're an athlete. Do a 24-hour English warm-up before the test to get your brain in the zone.
Okay, those strategies are great, but how is this thing actually graded? You know, understanding the scoring criteria is kind of like having the answer key to the test. It shows you exactly what you need to be focused on.
And this right here is probably the most important thing to know about your score. It is split into 4, count them, 4 equal parts. Each one is worth exactly 25%. That means you need to have a balanced game. You can't just have amazing vocabulary and terrible grammar. Everything counts equally.
So first up is fluency and coherence. What is that? It's basically your ability to speak smoothly and connect your ideas in a way that makes sense. The goal isn't to talk a mile a minute. It's all about flow and avoiding those long, unnatural pauses where you're just searching for a word.
Next, you've got lexical resource. Sounds fancy, I know, but it's really just about your vocabulary. But pay attention to those key words, range, appropriateness, and accuracy. It is not about dropping the biggest, most complex words you can find in a thesaurus. It's about using the right word to get your point across clearly.
This quote just nails it. Your vocabulary is a tool. You're using it to communicate, not to show off how smart you are. In fact, if you try to use a fancy word and you use it wrong, that's going to hurt your score, not help it. Clarity is always king.
The third piece of the puzzle is grammatical range and accuracy. The examiner is listening for 2 main things here. 1, can you use different kinds of sentences, a mix of simple and complex ones? And 2, are you using them correctly without making tons of errors?
And finally, pronunciation. And let me be really clear about this, because it's probably the biggest myth out there. This has nothing to do with having a British or an American accent. 0. It is 100% about clarity. Can the examiner understand what you're saying without having to struggle? Your natural accent is perfectly fine, as long as your words are clear. So we've gone over the structure, the strategies, the scoring. Now let's put it all together. Let's talk about the master key, the single most important secret to unlocking a great score. And that is understanding what the examiner is really looking for.
This really is the most important takeaway. Let's look at the myths versus the reality. Examiners do not want to hear answers you memorized from a book. They are not impressed by a bunch of fancy words. And they absolutely do not score you based on your accent. What they do want? It's so much simpler. They want to see how well you can communicate. They want to hear you express your own ideas. They want your speech to be clear and easy to understand. That's it. That's the whole game.
And that really just leaves us with this one final thought. You have to stop chasing perfection. The goal isn't to speak flawless textbook English. The real question you need to ask yourself is much simpler and honestly much more achievable. It isn't, is my English perfect, but am I ready to communicate? If your answer to that is yes, then you're ready for this test. Thanks for checking out this explainer.